Ben Sasse civics lesson. Man, it was good. Trump's tweets made it to the billboards. Yes, they did. The NFL's back, which means Kaepernick is back.
Did he go anywhere?
Apparently, 100,000. Think of that number. 100,000.
100,000?
Yep.
100,000.
Just a big number.
Is that a revelation?
That's all it is. While you guys tune into the show, thank you for joining us. Share the show. If you want to contact us at contact@crosspolitic.com, we appreciate the conversation. And thank you to all our club members. It's good to be here. Pastor Toby Knox, Waterboy. Welcome to a brand new midweek Cross-Politic News Fix.
Hey, look, it's Wednesday.
Yes.
Here we are.
Middle of the week.
As always, if you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a member of Cross-Politic. You can join at crosspolitic.com. And for a limited time, if you join, you can email us and request a copy of a book from Jovial Press, run by our very own Jason Farley.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
Host of one of the new shows on the Cross-Politic Network, Westminster Confessions of Funk.
Hey.
We need a network button.
Network.
You know what I need for him? I actually need some
Funk.
There you go.
Speaking of the Cross-Politic Network, we also have How to Build a Tent with our man Matt Williams. And Law and Profits Marcus Pittman.
Coming
he
brought
at
it
you.
this last week, didn't
Woo,
he?
that show was fire.
good.
Christian
That was good.
worldview applied to business and economics. And if you like this show, you like what we're doing with our network, please share it with your friends. Buy some Cross-Politic merch.
We like that.
Wear it proudly. And if you're feeling really generous, you can check out our Amazon wish list. But best of all, join the Cross-Politic Club and become a member.
You got to. We got to get up. Glenn Beck and CRTV got over 100,000 members. We got to get up past that.
We're coming.
Yes.
So yesterday, Ben Badass Sasse.
Yes.
Did you see that guy?
That was great.
The senator from Nebraska took the Senate to school as the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court Justice rumble started
seriously is.
going down. He actually said we need to go back to schoolhouse rock and what the Constitution actually says each of the branches of government is for.
How did we get here and how can we fix it? I want to make just 4 brief points. Number 1, in our system, the legislative branch is supposed to be the center of our politics.
Number 1.
Number 2, it's not. Why not? Because for the last century, and increasing by the decade right now, more and more legislative authority is delegated to the executive branch every year. Both parties
That's
do
so
it.
good.
The legislature is impotent. The legislature is weak. And most people here want their jobs more than they really want to do legislative work.
Yes.
And so they punt most of the work to the next branch. Third consequence is that this transfer of power means the people yearn for a place where politics can actually be done.
Right.
And when we don't do a lot of big actual political debating here, we transfer it to the Supreme Court. And that's why the Supreme Court is increasingly a substitute political battleground
so good.
in America.
Yep.
It is not healthy, but it is what happens, and it's something that our founders wouldn't be able to make any sense of.
Last point here.
And fourth and finally, we badly need to restore the proper duties and the balance of power from our constitutional system.
So,
that was really good.
Yeah, it's all really good. All 12 minutes is worth your time. This is after the hearings were interrupted by a number of protesters. Did you guys catch that?
Did they even get started?
No, it hadn't even got started yet. They're shouting to vote no on Kavanaugh. I'm sure several senators changed their minds. After that.
Well, they had a conversation beforehand on the phone. Like they actually had a
planned that.
meeting
They
to
planned
plan
that.
this whole thing. So it's not an
They
accident.
got passes to get in. And
Well, I mean the senators.
I know.
So-
The senators were the ones letting them in.
And all that stuff.
You're gonna stand up and raise a sign in three minutes in.
Yeah, right. Sass the speech is phenomenal.
Yeah,
we
it
need
really is.
more of this.
Yep.
Sass goes on to summarize what the 3 branches of government are for. Like he literally went back to Schoolhouse Rock.
Yep.
It's like, okay, there's 3 branches of government. Like he's lecturing the Senate.
Yeah.
But we need this, right? And you noticed he focused his harshest criticisms on the legislature,
on himself and his team.
And he's exactly right. His point is that the whole point of the legislature, the founding fathers, were trying to make a place where basically
politics can happen.
The instinct of the people, of the sort of mob, the instinct of protest, the instinct, like they knew that was going to happen regardless. And they said, we need a place where it can happen in an orderly way.
Right.
And that's what the House of Representatives and Senate's for.
And part of that orderly way meant that you could vote someone out. That had some sort of connection to your state and some sort of rule over your politics in your state.
But that presupposes that they're actually making laws.
Yep. That's right.
So that you can have this immediate feedback mechanism and feedback loop. So and representatives, it's every 2 years on purpose. So you can hire and fire every 2 years.
Right.
That guy's not doing his job.
Get out of here.
Fire him. Right.
That's right.
Can him. But what he points out is that the House and Senate, the legislature, has stopped actually passing law.
Yeah.
They're not actually fighting like they should. And he at one point says, it should get rowdy in here sometimes. We should be fighting here for the laws that our people want, duke it out, but instead they're passing the buck to administrative, executive agencies.
And the legislative branch, all they're doing is mimicking the church. The church punts. The church doesn't want to fight in-house. The church doesn't want to disagree well.
Yeah.
The church keeps punting, not coming down on homosexuality, not coming down on all these transgender sins in our
I was fine talking about the Senate like that. That hurts talking about the church like that.
I think you're right, though. I mean, I think we do this as a people. We fail to fight when we need to fight.
Yeah.
We fail, and we want to punt it.
Yep.
And we think, well, maybe if there's a committee, they can hash it out. Maybe if it's handed off to this thing over there, they'll figure it out. And our track record is that it over and over again, it just makes things worse.
Oh, I don't forget your Grace Agenda talk that you did, where you basically kind of called out the church and particularly those in the audience, stop men in the audience to stop being cowards.
Yeah,
and that's where this essentially is coming from.
If we're having to have this conversation at this level, at this particular platform, that really wasn't the purpose of this whole event. Everybody there needs to be fired.
Everybody where?
Everybody in the Senate needs to be fired.
Oh, yeah. Well,
everybody.
He went ahead.
That's what he said.
He actually said, basically, we care more about keeping our jobs than we actually care about doing our jobs.
I'm actually talking to people who actually vote for those people in the Senate. Now, obey.
Yeah, so fire them. Fire them.
Fire them.
Right. If they're not actually talking like Sasse, and if they're not actually trying to argue and fight to actually make law rather than, I mean, he says at one point, Sasse in this talk says that we pass these mammoth bills, 1,200-page bills.
No one reads them.
Nobody reads them. And they basically amount to pushing it all to government agencies that were not elected.
The alphabet.
Yeah.
The alphabet soup of the government bureaucracy. And the problem, and he's exactly right, what that means then is that the Congress can't be held accountable.
Yeah.
And the people get that. And so eventually, where are they going to go to start protesting? The Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, yeah.
But his whole point is that the Supreme Court was never intended by the Founding Fathers to be a persuadable body.
Right. Right.
I loved actually what he said at the end, where he says the reason why they wear black and they serve for life is because they are not to be empathetic.
Yep. Yeah. That's right.
They're actually to be sort of heartless. Their justice is blind.
Yeah. Now, I do have one disagreement towards the end, too.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. Say it.
He basically said that Brett Kavanaugh, some people call him Kavanaugh. I just
nobody says that.
No, okay.
Nobody says that.
I like Kavanaugh.
Nobody says that.
Are you done?
Nobody says that.
And he basically says that Brett Kavanaugh needs to compartmentalize.
He said put it in a lockbox or something like that.
Some of
his personal convictions.
His personal convictions, which if someone believed in abortion, then I would say that actually disqualifies you from being in the Supreme Court.
Here's the thing. There is a sense in which what he said is true.
It's true, yeah.
Because my personal preferences and prejudices as a judge do need to be put in a lockbox.
Yeah, that's a proverb. Right.
But that's different than, and what it's sometimes taken as, putting truth,
taking your faith,
and God's justice, and putting in lockbox. We can't do that. But at the end, Sasse says he believes Kavanaugh is the right kind of man for the job and should be confirmed.
That's kind of amazing. Like, I wasn't a Kavanaugh fan. Like, haven't been. But watching this is kind of like, I might be leaning that way a little more.
This is a proxy war of Roe versus Wade. Everybody knows this is at least in principle the right, conservatism, making a play for a long-term hold on the Supreme Court. So that's why this is big.
Yeah, we're hoping that's the case.
We're hoping.
We're hoping.
We're praying.
We're praying that's the case.
We're praying.
Here's one thing I thought was really interesting about the whole Kavanaugh thing.
Kavanaugh?
No. It's amazing that all of a sudden Democrats want to read stuff
What do they want to read?
They want to read all
funny.
of Kavanaugh's, all the stuff that he worked. Basically, they're saying
his
7
whole
million. There's
Supreme
7 million.
Court
Hold on.
life.
How much?
They say there's 7 million pages, at least 7 to 10 million pages that they have not seen yet from Kavanaugh. That is
Golly.
under protection because of presidential or I can't remember what it's called.
Presidential
classified?
treatment.
There's a way the president can say, okay, these stay classified because
classified.
this is private, sensitive information. And so
But that was classified under Bush, not even
Right,
under Trump, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But under Bush. So it's 3 years under Bush.
Is
and so they're saying all of a sudden, we want to read 7 million pages. I can't get y'all to read 20,000
Medicare
pages
bill.
Obamacare.
on
Yeah.
Obamacare, and you all of a sudden want to read 7 million
Now,
pages.
is this how much? Is this ordinarily how much documentation people read about Supreme Court justice nominees?
First of all, I don't think Democrats read any pages concerning anything.
Maybe an intern as a homework assignment.
Just so we can have kind of a spectrum, they're saying right now we've only got 7 to 10% of Kavanaugh's writing history, his records that we can look through.
Okay.
But his 7% against someone else's 99% is 5 times more. And compared to all the last 5 justices, he has more writing than all of them put together.
Wait, so he total he's just done that much more writing?
So he's done that much more writing. 300 he's written 300 documents,
like decisions or
300
memos.
yeah, exactly, 300 decisions, and not just that, but all of his other rulings that he's written. He's got
Wow.
what is it? It's,
So
I think
he's
it's 70,000 pages.
Yeah.
70,000.
And this is more than the last 5 Supreme Court justice nominees combined.
They're arguing
Put
the fact-
together.
Yeah,
The request put together.
they're arguing for the fact that hey, we only have 7%, 10%,
Right.
against somebody else's 99%. And
But
yet
you're
his-
saying, wait, I just want to make sure I understand you.
Yeah.
So you're saying though, but this is because Kavanaugh has actually written that much
That's
more?
exactly.
Then
Well,
is this just what they're requiring that's way more than the other guys? It's actually what he's written?
It's actually what he's written.
Okay.
So, and something that's really interesting about this, what they're actually attaching to the rest of his work is something that he can't reveal that's related to the president.
Right.
And even that what they do have is far more than anything that they would ever read anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right. But, it makes you wonder, though, are they digging for something else
Yeah,
also?
absolutely.
Are they thinking, let's make this let's make this a mess for them.
Well,
and also maybe
out
we
more
can
of their
maybe we
playbook or
can dig up
something.
some dirt
Yeah.
on
of course, this is what they're trying
On
to do is look at
Bush,
the other team's playbook.
yeah.
But here's also the deal: is like the Republicans would do the same thing.
Of course
at
they
some
would.
level.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
So this isn't.
I don't doubt
This is
that for
politics.
one
I
second.
really like Sasse's sass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
absolutely.
really liked his school lesson. We need
Ted Cruz.
We need more of
Yeah.
that.
Ted Cruz was awesome.
I saw that as well.
I'm not a big fan of Ted, but I like that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been reading Gary DeMar's book, God and Government,
Best
which
book.
I can't recommend highly enough
Do
for
it.
Christians who want to be thoughtful Bible thinkers in the political realm.
Yeah.
God and Government by Gary DeMar,
His
get
best
it.
work.
But he makes a similar point towards the beginning more broadly with regard to various governmental spheres.
Yeah.
And the point that he makes is that God has established several governments in this world. Self-government is the foundational government because God saves individuals one by one,
right.
regenerates us, and the Holy Spirit begins to govern us.
Yeah.
And you have no civil government without self-government.
Right. And then it's all the other forms of government, family, church, and state are made up of individuals.
Right.
Well, what happens, he notes that when one sphere, like say the family, for example, abdicates responsibility for its God-given duties, other spheres of government step in to fill the void.
That's right.
Okay. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right. And in our era, it's usually the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you aren't taking care of your parents in old age, the state steps in and says it's okay, Medicare and Social Security. If you are not taking care of the poor and disabled, families and churches, the state's going to step in with welfare programs. Parents don't educate their children.
State has
The
that worked
state
out.
says, hey, we got government
that.
schools. But it's the same thing that Sasse is talking about, Sasse is talking about that at a federal level, saying when branches of government don't do their job and abdicate, they're asking for other branches of government to step in, which is how we've gotten a highly politicized Supreme Court that's legislating from the bench
That's right.
rather than just ruling and interpreting
But
the
that's
law.
been going on a long, long time. You go back,
They've
the
been pushing
Dred
that.
Scott
Yeah.
case.
Right.
It's been going on
It's
for
been going
a long
on.
time.
Right. That's a That's a good point.
Well, we cannot emphasize enough how important what's going on right now with Brett Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court, and I mean, this is pretty momentous. What's going on here?
Exactly
for the next 40 years,
right? But Ben Sasse, what he says needs to rebuke all of us. We all need to say, okay, you're responsible for you. You're responsible for your family. He went after himself. He went after the Senate and the House of Representatives first and said, this is our fault, guys.
So repentance looks like, right?
And so every man needs to say, don't blame the bloated state. Don't blame the bureaucrats. You need to blame yourself and say you need to take responsibility for what God's done. This is what David Bonson's book, Crisis of Responsibility, is all about. Hey, speaking of state educating children, you guys remember David Hogg?
Yes.
The student from the Parkland school shooting who turned anti-gun activist?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
you gotta do it.
He's now joined a group trying to raise money to put Trump tweets on billboards in Texas.
This actually makes me laugh a little bit.
I know.
You know, I went through let me read through some of the tweets that he's wanting to put on billboards.
Okay.
My poor Texans.
My poor Texans. No.
Ted Cruz. Hey, deep in the heart of Texas. That's right. Ted Cruz is failing in the polls. He's nervous. People are worried about his place of birth and his failure to report his loans from banks.
That's what they're going to put on a billboard in Texas.
Here's another one. How can Ted Cruz be an evangelical Christian when he lies so much and is so dishonest? Last one here. I'll read for you. There's more. Ted Cruz purposely and illegally did not list on his personal disclosure form personally guaranteed loans from banks. They own him. So these are all tweets from 2016 in the Trump presidential election.
I could actually maybe get behind a GoFundMe like this if they were actually going to do some more fun. Like Trump has some really entertaining tweets.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
You know, I mean, but I don't know. This is just sort of, you know.
I need a laugh every now and then.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. I'm just saying. I just don't think I'm going to donate to this GoFundMe.
I think every liberal should donate all of their money to this GoFundMe. I think they should do every penny they have because this is a great way for us to laugh.
Right? Because exactly.
Well, this is ahead of Trump's. The word on the street is Trump's going to come to Texas
and support
Ted Cruz, do a rally in Texas and everything. So this is ahead of that campaign.
So they're just highlighting the fact that Trump, you know, if you're on his bad side, he hates you.
Yeah.
And if you you're kind of work with him, he loves you. So now, you know, Ted
Cruz is in the.
If you're useful to Trump, he likes you. If you're
he's your friend now.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Praying for you, Texas.
Government schools have also given us sexism in California.
Oh yes.
You read this, right?
Yeah, this is really funny.
Right? By failing to teach people in California how to think, the government schools have given us legislators that have passed a bill in California requiring major companies based in California to have female directors on their boards.
Yep.
Major companies to have female directors.
Requiring, and this is one of those kind of diversity for diversity's sake kind of thing. There's no wisdom and principle behind it.
This is sexist. I'm calling it sexist.
Why not the transvestite? Why not the cross-dresser? Why not require a cross-dresser on all boards?
It's coming.
Oh, it's
almost there.
It's totally incoherent. Totally incoherent. But think about this. I mean, what they're trying to do, and this is what they did with affirmative action.
Yeah.
This is basically just affirmative action 2.0 or whatever, 3.0. But you can't force harmony and wisdom. Like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pass laws. So the way God...
You can't force unity.
The way that God works unity, harmony, and wisdom into the world is by saving people. He works in their hearts. And he makes them new. And then they learn to love other people.
That's right.
Right? But what we do, if you don't believe in God, you don't believe that God can actually change hearts, you have to coerce it.
That's right. That's right.
And so you pass laws requiring the world to be a certain way. Right? But you can't require that God have created some white dude with blonde hair and blue eyes to be good at business and interested in your company in 2022.
Right.
God, I require that you would have created that person.
Well, practically what's going to happen and what's already happening is all the businesses are going to do is remove their corporation out of California and incorporate in another state.
Right.
And that's already happening, but California is just going to keep doing that further and further. So the business can still do business in California, but then their corporations are just over here.
They're driving business.
Idaho, Texas, whatever.
California proceeds on course on just driving off the cliff.
But this is what happens when you refuse to acknowledge God and his law and his standard. When you start becoming consistent with yourself, You kill yourself.
It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. It's suicidal.
This is what you're doing. You're committing suicide.
But this is also hatred of women.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to recognize this because this is not based on, I mean, there are some women who are qualified and interested to serve on certain boards, and they ought to. Praise God for their gifts.
Absolutely.
Okay? Nobody has any problem with that. But requiring every board to have a woman on it is basically saying, you need to have some body on your board with a female anatomy.
Yeah, that's right.
Which reduces a woman to her body.
Yeah. Well, and the reason what they're not seeing is the reason that they're not having women in the business area that they're trying to fix. They probably do see a real problem that women can't get jobs in these areas, but they've created an environment in such a way, especially with the Me Too movement, the way that culture is favoring every guy is an offender. He's just waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That men are afraid to even be around women in any form of corporate environment because of the fact that whatever they do is all of a sudden is sexual harassment.
And this
so
is
they've set women up to not even men not even want women in the environment.
Right. Because it's dangerous.
Because it's dangerous for the company to have them here.
The woman might sue.
So exactly.
Right.
And so they're fixing a problem that they created.
Right. And this is what happens again when you walk away from God's law and you walk away from the gospel. When you don't have a way to deal with sin.
And women don't bite. Don't bite on this.
Seriously.
Let me tell you something. If you are good at your job, get the job because of your merit.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're good at it.
Right.
Not because they just happen to need a woman.
Right. But that's,
reject that.
But that's why it's an insult.
It's an insult, and it's going to hold you back.
Right. And I mean, basically, this boils down to just virtue signaling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what this. I mean, this is them. This is them. Saying we don't have a carbon footprint.
But they don't care about women. Otherwise, they'd be pro-life.
They don't care about women. That's right, and that's the point. This is dishonoring to women.
Yeah.
And it's just virtue signaling.
You just made me think of in my previous work life, I was in DC. Working at a business meeting, and the guy was telling me how he likes to drive a Suburban, and to offset what he does, the carbon footprint as a result of Suburban desires and driving
Suburban desires.
To drive a big truck, whatever.
Some people are same-sex attracted. Some people are suburban attracted.
There you go.
New identity.
Yeah. So he pays to this company to plant trees.
Yeah.
So some sort of carbon dollar.
Justification.
You know what that is?
Justification.
That's the
indulgences.
That's the new world indulgences right there.
there.
Yeah. I just think I think the guys on some of these boards need to just start self-identifying for the purpose of board meetings as women.
As a woman. Yeah.
Just for the purpose of board
solution.
meetings. For the purpose of board meetings, I identify as a woman. Take that to court.
Define a woman again?
Right. Oh yeah, this is just
that's good.
One more middle finger at God's sovereign design for the glory of male and female.
Yeah.
Speaking of virtue signaling, Nike has plunged into the deep end of political capitalism.
Football season is back.
Here's right now Nike's getting a lot of flack for this, but I thought as much as I don't like the whole conversation, I really don't. I'm actually really proud of Nike.
Hey, you know what? I'm actually with you.
I'm really I learned a lot from Nike, and not just it made me go back and think they've been doing this for years. No one, and look, the inconsistency is crazy. No one said anything about their LGBT shoe that came out all of a sudden. Like Christians haven't been, but all of a sudden everybody's mad about this.
Yeah.
But anyway, they've been doing this for years. With Charles Barkley, they had an ad that set the world on fire. Like, I'm not paid to be a role model. I'm not. And that was like set the world on fire. This is when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah,
that lasted for 10 years at least.
Wow.
And so Nike didn't leave. They didn't leave. Tiger Woods. Everybody else left. They stayed, supported him.
They stuck with him.
They left golf.
Yeah.
They didn't leave Tiger.
Interesting.
Nike has been leaning in on the most controversial topics since I can remember. And I'm like, why haven't we?
Right.
Why haven't we planted our flag in the ground?
I'm with you. Yeah. So they're enemies.
Yeah.
But they're worthy enemies.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. So this ad features a close up of Colin Kaepernick's face with the words "Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Just do it.
Just do it."
This is the 30th anniversary of the Just Do It
and this
apparent
is out
campaign.
of all the things they could have chose.
Right.
This was it.
Believe in something. My favorite knockoff, there's a bunch of knockoffs that have spun out. My favorite so far is a close-up picture of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
With the same quote.
Yeah.
Believe in something.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrifices and everything. Yeah. I mean, so, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. It's incoherent.
Yeah, right.
And at the same time, I'm with you.
Man.
They're enemies. Like, I don't agree with their worldview.
They're running our play.
But they are, exactly. That's the thing that I wanted to say. I think Christians on the whole need to have way more Nike-like ad campaigns to end abortion, honor monogamous heterosexual marriage, and call America back to basic logical sanity based on the lordship of Jesus Christ.
You know, it's amazing to me right now. We are always so concerned and so shy, even when it comes to Facebook and what we can say with abortion, what we can say about pro-life, what we can say about homosexuality. We might get kicked off.
We need to be running the best ads in the world.
My goodness.
The best ads in the world.
Nike says, you know what? What is ticking everybody off? Oh, Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah.
Let's put our pen right here and let's stand on this ground.
Right.
If one of our club members wants to fund an ad, we'll film it.
We will film it. Yes. Yeah,
we'll film it. We'll run it.
Pro-life.
We'll put on TV stations.
Christian
we'll put on
marriage.
billboards.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the lordship of Jesus Christ is the only foundation for justice. Speaking of justice, finally, last thing for today, John MacArthur and friends have just published a statement on social justice and the gospel that we want to commend. You can read the statement at statementonsocialjustice.com. As with all collaborative statements like this, there are always places where you can see the fingerprints of discussions and debates and lingering disagreements between the signers and authors. At the same time, the strength of the statement is where it comes down on some of the key social issues facing the church today. Racial animosity, sexual confusion, and the victim culture at large. Those are some of the key places where they landed solid punches.
And, you know, I just want, before we go here, I just want to say this too. You might not agree with everything in there. But let me tell you something. You need to be involved in the conversation in this way. Go ahead and make your amendments to whatever you want to do. But get involved. Be a part of this conversation. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
And don't be so prideful and arrogant to be too good for that conversation.
Absolutely.
Because it's easy to be a critic on the couch and say, well, I have a lot of disagreements with it and lean out, which is actually just a way of abdicating.
That's right.
We started all this with Ben Sasse. Take responsibility and fight. Fight it out here. Don't just be an armchair critic and be too good for this.
And find out with your brothers. Get in there and say, okay, man, let's figure this out. I disagree with this. You guys did good here. Okay, I like this. Okay, we should work on this a little better. But get in.
But recognize this as a good starting point for that discussion. So check it out, statementonsocialjustice.com. Thanks for tuning in. Cross Politics brand new midweek news blast. If this is the kind of thing you think the world should have more of, please become a Cross Politic Club member. Support our antics, which you can do by going to crosspolitic.com.
And until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic. Actually, until Sunday.
Hey,
that's right.
Yeah.